peanut butter and jelly. It's delicious. It's easy to make. And today we're going to be reacting to Brian Lagerstrom taking this classic to the next level.
Wow, oh my God,
that is so good. Pretty
dude.
PB&J. Like I said, the name of the game here is concept.
Yes.
All in one bite, you get to experience rich, roasty nut butter. And then some crunchy salt comes along and amplifies that.
Yeah.
Then some unctuous, creamy butter fat. Then cold, sweet, tart raspberries. And now your brain is melting.
How much would you pay for that?
I mean, honestly, before I go on with today's episode, I do want to give a special shout out to my amazing new patron, Carter Rowe. Thank you so much for your support. And with that said, on to the reaction.
Now, it's peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
But I love strawberry, jam with peanut butter.
Yeah, jam, preserves.
Yeah.
I prefer preserves. I'm pretty sure he's probably going to make a preserve if he's making it from scratch.
Let's look at this.
But jelly's pretty easy to make too from scratch. It's like deceivingly easy.
It is? I've never made jelly.
Really? Just, you can literally take like bottled Concord grape juice and thicken it with a little bit of gelatin. Done.
Oh, I don't like jelly.
Oh, you don't like jelly? No.
No,
I like preserves where it's the fruit.
Yeah, that's what I like.
Down. Yeah, that's what I like. That's what I prefer.
And what's a jam then?
A jam, I think, is more similar to preserve.
Maybe
jelly is like just the
preserves
juice.
Is the fruit is preserved in its own juices, right? And then it thickens up, right?
Yeah.
And I think in a jam, it's been blended.
Probably. We're totally guessing here.
I'm guessing.
Let us know in the comments.
A lifetime in this industry, and I don't know the difference between a preserve, a jam, and a
that just goes to show you, don't listen to anything we say.
Today, I'm going to show you how to make a rated R version of this sandwich that has tons of
rated R version
and male nudity. I mean, just kidding, but think about that. To get started, I'll need to make a grown-up's version of sliced white bread. For that, I'll grab my stand mixer, and in the bowl of that, measure 130 grams of warm water, 5 grams of instant yeast, 1 large egg, 45 grams of melted but not hot butter, 45 grams of sugar, and 100 grams of roasted and russet potatoes.
Okay, so he's making almost something like in between a brioche and a potato bread.
Right?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Brioche typically has butter and eggs in it. It's usually milk as well. But he's adding some riced potato in there as well. That's going to be awesome.
Well, that's going to give it a little bit more of an earth
potato
tone.
Starch to bread attracts and holds a lot more water than the wheat starches could hold.
That's a good touch too.
The potato starch molecules here make it harder for the wheat starches to retrogradate or stale.
Rather than boiling it, he just straight up roasted it. All right.
Baked it.
Yeah, he baked it. Which doesn't add any excess moisture.
It gets rid of the moisture.
As well as the unnatural squishy tenderness of commodity sliced white bread.
Yes.
Plus, it tastes really good.
That's why I like my vodka.
Of all-purpose flour and then 10 grams of salt. The dough goes on, and I'll mix this on medium speed for about 4 minutes or until the dough goes from mashed potatoes and flour into a slightly sticky dough like this. From there, I'll turn this mixer up to high speed and then mix for another 7 to 8 minutes. I'll mention that all the stuff that makes this bread super squishy and tender, like the butter, potato,
in a good way,
sugar, for example, is also going to impede the gluten formation. So to mitigate that, I'm going to mix this dough longer than I would for, say, pizza or bread dough. After 12 minutes of mixing, this dough should be
the more you mix, the more you're
going
to develop that gluten, and ultimately, the more stretchy it's going to be.
No, that mixer's been used.
It's been used. The more you mix a dough, the longer the rest time it's going to need to be, though.
Strong enough to resist tearing when I give it a good, firm tug like this. That means the gluten in there is all linked up.
So gluten, when it comes to flour, the flour is ground down wheat. When you put water in there, you mix the dough, and as you're mixing it, all these gluten-free floating gluten strands start to bind together, and that's why when you stretch out a dough and hold it to light, you'll see literal gluten strands within the dough. That's what gives dough its flexibility. So if you were to do this same exact thing with rice flour, yes, there's a little bit of flexibility, but you'll notice a dough made with rice flour is more bouncy than it is stretchy.
And I go to my go-to video where you see the two guys beating with the
mochi guys.
One guy's pulling and the other guy's.
Love that video.
Next, I'll flip this dough into a medium bowl, and then I'll round it off into a nice taut ball so that I can have something more uniform to shape in a little while after the first rise. That looks good. Now I'll cover it with a lid and ferment it here on the counter for 2 hours. While that rises, let's make the J part of this PB&J. Specifically, I'm talking about jam not jelly.
Yes.
To make it, I'll grab my heaviest bottom pot and into it combine 500 grams or 3 little clamshells of fresh raspberries. I know the most classic PB&J combo would probably be Concord grape jelly, but fresh Concord grapes are only available where I live like 2 weeks out of the year, and raspberry is just as lively and bright and fun, but in a different way. Next, I'll add in 75 grams of lemon juice, 75 grams of white distilled vinegar, and then 700 grams of sugar. Yep. That's a lot of sugar, but that's how much it takes to set a jam properly. The ratio of acid, sugar, pectin, and water.
Pectin is a type of thickener naturally found in fruit. So he's spot on, man.
Now, the only thing about raspberries is some people are offended by that quantity of seeds.
Yeah.
But I feel like it gives it texture.
Yeah, same here. I love raspberries. I'll eat
Except
the
when it
shit
gets
out of
stuck
raspberry.
between those two molars, and I'm like,
Yeah, well, you know, that's what flossing's for.
exactly.
Are you like me, always on the move, looking for something slick for that quick convenience? Are you worried about sustainability? Are you worried about data theft? Are you worried about how you're gonna find your wallet if you lose it? Well, the sponsor of today's video, Exter, has got it all solved. Here I have the Parliament wallet in steel blue. It is super slim, literally half the size of a conventional wallet, but it fits over 12 cards and cash. With the click of a button, it's got quick card access. Extra wallets also have built-in RFID blocking, which protects you from data theft and wireless skimming. These are also made with sustainable and environmentally friendly materials like Italian vegan leather and space-grade aluminum. And finally, the solar-powered tracker that you can use your phone to find the location of your wallet and vice versa. With 1 2-hour charge, this will work for up to 3 months. Check it out. That's pretty awesome. Use my code Chef Brian when you visit the link in the description below to get up to 25% off of your Extra wallet today.
I mean, you could use frozen fruit juice concentrate and extra strength pectin to make a jam, but that's not really low sugar, and those styles of jam tend to be firm and
What's
bouncy
wrong with that?
as opposed to jamming. Now I'm gonna scoot this over to the stove and drop it over high heat. Once it's up to a bare simmer, I'll come back with a wooden spoon and stir it until the acids and raspberries are combined.
If you're
and the
gonna make
sugar is fully dissolved.
like jam,
Next, I'll
I
cook
would
this
just go
fruit
get the
until
frozen
it's fully
stuff.
tender and has released all of its.
Save a lot of money, and they're gonna be the pick of the crop, too.
Yes. So whenever something's frozen or canned, typically it's like the top pick of the crop.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. When you get stuff that's already made into jams and things like that, that's usually like the secondary product that they're using because they don't need to showcase it in its optimal form.
Exactly.
It's already cooked down, which is not bad. Like, you know, it's fine.
That's maybe 10 minutes of cooking over high heat. Once it starts to foam up like this, though, I'll turn the heat down to medium-high so that it doesn't boil over and burn. Then I'll jump in and stir those bubbles down a little bit. After 10 minutes or so, this fruit is just about fully softened and the mixture has had a good chance to reduce. So now I'm going to do an unnecessary but beneficial step. That's take the pot off heat, grab a strainer, and then scoop about 1/3 to 1/2 of the raspberries into that strainer. From there, I'll take a wooden spoon and press to get as much of the raspberry
eliminating some
pulp
seeds?
and juice
Maybe.
pushed through it as possible while leaving behind all of the seeds. But to make sure that the sugar and pectin ratio stay within the sweet spot, I'm going to stress that you really need to work this to get as much of the pulp and juice pressed through as possible, and then make an effort to come back
very
and
detailed.
insert that
That's
pulp
your
on the
goal.
bottom of the strainer and make sure that everything of value gets back into the pool. Now the pot goes back on the stove
I would
over
actually-
high heat, and I'll keep on cooking.
It would elongate the recipe time, but I would actually wash it and get that and then reduce it again.
Wash it?
Those seeds.
those
Get as
seeds.
much.
Right,
I
right.
would wash that strainer.
Oh, I see. Get the strainer, rinse it out to
And
really get everything and then
Yeah.
reduce. Okay.
You know, it's a little bit more
Yeah.
time consuming, but you're getting a maximum effort.
Once this is back up to a rolling boil, I'll add in 60 grams
And
of
I love
regular,
doing recipes
not
like that at
low-sugar
home
fruit
because it just
pectin.
fills up
I'll
the
whisk
house
that in
with,
right
like,
away
this
to prevent
pleasant
any
odor.
clumping.
So I don't mind. I would extend the recipe in lengthwise just to get that effect going.
In my experience, pectin dissolves in any hot liquid pretty easily, so there's no need to mix this up like a cornstarch slurry or anything like that. Once that's stirred in, I'm going to cook out the water to raise the overall temperature of the sugar. Game here is to reduce as much water out of this mixture as it takes to raise the temperature of the syrup to 220°F. That's 8 degrees hotter than boiling, so it takes quite a bit of reduction. From here, I'm going to carefully ladle this jam into 2 pint-sized mason jars. Disclaimer, this is hot syrup
lava.
and will burn you really bad if it gets on your skin, so pay attention when moving this stuff around and stay frosty. Once I've got 2 mason
You can
jars
see
lined
that
up
that's
like this,
been
I'm gonna
thickened
pop
very
on
well because the seeds are very evenly distributed. They're not just sinking down. If this wasn't reduced enough, all those seeds would have sank down. So
wait a second. Is that a cheat code?
What?
Could you do that and have all the seeds come down and then cut that out and be left with the good stuff and then reduce that again?
Maybe. Sounds like an extra step that's unnecessary, though.
It's
like, I guess you could.
It's an issue of seeds or no seeds.
I guess you can, if you do that technique, you can potentially make seedless preserves.
Let them cool for 3 to 4 hours at room temperature and then another 12 in the fridge so that they can fully set up. But we don't have to wait because I've got yesterday's jam here ready to go. Take a look. Texturally, it's perfectly set, or at least in my opinion, that is an ideal texture for sandwich jam. It's soft and spreadable, but also firm and holds its shape when you need it to. Flavor-wise, it's full of natural fruity brightness from the berries, but also it's got a fresh lemon hit in there and plenty of sweetness to balance out all that acidity. Now, let's check back on the bread. It's been rising for over 2 hours now, and as you can see, it's over doubled in size and all gassed up. Next, I'm going to prep a bread proofing vessel, in this case a 1.5 pound loaf pan, and I'll give it a heavy hit of pan spray or neutral oil because this loaf can stick if you don't grease the pan appropriately. Now I'm going to flip my dough out onto a lightly floured surface, then press to degas aggressively. Once I'm flattened like this, I'll grab the bottom of the dough and fold it up 2 inches from the top. Then I'll grab both sides, pull them out. The right goes over, I'll press that down to seal it. Then the left goes all the way over the right. I'll press that to seal. Then I'll grab the top of the dough and fold it in at 2 to 3 inches.
There you
I'll
go.
Fold the top corners like this. Now I'll roll the dough back towards myself, pulling back and pressing down to seal
this guy's
in
had
as much
obviously
tension
some
as I
type
can
of training,
each time.
but that's how you make a Pullman loaf.
Yeah.
I've made countless Pullman loaves of bread when I worked in a bread bakery many years ago, so I have zero comments to add to this.
Into my sprayed pan seam side down. Now I'm going to spray this with a little bit of water to keep it from drying out, and then I'll cover it with a towel to proof on the counter for 60 to 90 minutes. While that proofs, let's make the PB part of this PB&J. For that, I'm going to show you 2 types of peanut butter made from 2 different peanuts. On the left here, I've got 500 grams of Spanish peanuts. These are defined by their red, papery skins and higher oil content. They're supposed to have the most delicious flavor, too, out of all of the 4 major peanut varieties.
Wait, you want the skin on?
That. Yeah, you can make peanut butter with skin on.
Does it?
It's going to add texture for sure, and some people don't like it.
On the right, I have 500 grams of runner style peanuts. This style of peanut is supposed to be a little bit more mellow in terms of flavor, but it'll probably be easier for you to get since most commercially available peanut butters are made from runner peanuts. To get these peanuts into a butterable condition, I'm going to load both of these trays into a 300F oven to slowly roast them for about 40 to 50 minutes. Yes, higher heat will get you where you're going faster, but the likelihood that you'll over roast these is very high. So I go low. After 45 to 50 minutes in a mellow oven, I'm going to pull these out. As you can see, they're not really that toasty looking, but for nut butter, you don't really want a deeply roasted nut because it will actually taste kind of burnt once it's milled down. I think that has to do with the friction of the pureeing part that tends to heat up the oil, and if it gets too hot, well, it'll taste kind of like it's burnt and or oxidized.
Do you have to wait for it to cool down, or can you put them in hot like that?
So I used to make this hazelnut butter for a dish, for a foie gras dish. It was a play on PB&J where we made our own jelly, we made our own hazelnut butter, and we blended it while it was still hot. We put the hazelnuts in the Roboku while it was
But is that
hot.
a plus or a...
What Chef Telepan told me was that you want to do it while it's hot so that the flavors incorporate, because we also used hazelnut oil to blend it, and he was like, he just feels that there's a much better cohesion of flavors that way.
I'll spin them for about 10 to 12 minutes each, but that timing is going to vary pretty well.
10 to 12 minutes? That sounds like forever.
But ballpark is like 10 minutes of spinning. The stages are dry and chunky, pasty ball that spins around the center, gritty but getting close, and then finally after about 10 to 12 minutes it'll be well pureed. And
listen,
just
I like this guy's attention
like
to detail, because he was saying how he doesn't want to roast it too dark because he's afraid, or his guess is when it pulses for that long, it's going to continue to cook. Very good point. Super detailed. And who's to argue that color isn't perfect?
It's perfect.
Yeah.
So the friction is
this
doing
first
more
batch was
cooking.
made with the Spanish variety. As you can see, it's a touch darker than traditional peanut butter. It's a little bit looser, mainly because it's warm and the higher oil content.
I think
Overall,
it's going to blend
has a pretty
smoother when you
smooth
do it
texture,
hot.
but I'll clarify that it will never be as smooth as Jif. That stuff has mega machines doing all the work, and there's a bunch of palm oil and sugar in there to smooth it out. Next, I'll do the runner peanuts. Same process as before, 10 minutes of spinning, and once it's smooth and just starting to get loose, I'll pop off the lid. As you can see, the runner peanut butter is lighter in color.
So I didn't see him seasoning. He didn't add any salt or...
He didn't. I would have, so in the telepan recipe, there was definitely salt in it.
Right?
Yep.
Now, you said you were doing a foie gras?
Yeah, it was a foie gras terrine with Concord grape jelly, which he made his own Concord grape juice, and
Now, was the foie gras already cooked, or you were making a fresh foie gras?
No, it was a terrine. It was cooked. Yeah.
Now, could you put a little bit of the terrine in there?
You could theoretically, but the way he served it is with some crostini, the foie gras, some of that hazelnut butter and jelly with a watercress.
So you needed the contrast. You wouldn't want to blend it.
I wouldn't want to blend it personally.
But imagine a foie gras peanut butter. Right? Yeah. So now you could put that on. Oof.
Imagine a grilled cheese with like foie gras peanut butter and jelly.
God damn it.
With brie cheese. Like you put it in a panini press. Oh, dude. That's a sandwich right there.
Are we jotting any of this?
That foie gras, like brie cheese, peanut butter and jelly I've done before.
Yeah?
Yeah, for myself. Yeah, when I got super high.
Do you know?
Went ham one day. Worth it.
It's also a touch thicker and looks a lot more like Jif than the Spanish butter did. Not saying that's a good thing, but
what Spanish butter did?
Sure.
He's saying the runner peanuts, this second peanut butter he made, the texture's a lot smoother and more akin to Jif than the Spanish peanut butter was.
Okay.
The Spanish peanuts have a really nice, deep, intense peanut flavor. Texturally, it's creamy and nice, but I wouldn't call it overly luxurious. The runner nut butter is noticeably creamier.
That's a professional. He didn't double dip.
He's very detailed. This guy's definitely had some type of professional training. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he worked at one of those.
But according to Health
websites.
Code, it doesn't count.
It doesn't count
because he touched it with his hands and he put that into it.
Flavor-wise, kind of lame to be honest. So my choice is the Spanish style. Back to the bread. It's been rising on the counter for about 75 minutes now, and when I poke it, you can see that it just barely holds onto that indent, but gently pushes it back out. Next, I'll spray the outside with a heavy dose of water, then grab my bread scoring lame and rip 5 to 6 scores on the top of the loaf on a diag like this. Oh, I snagged it.
That's normal.
Now, I'm going to load this into a 400F oven, and lastly, I'll spray the box with a dozen or so squirts of water.
So smart.
Yeah, the steam is, that's very smart using a sweet. So the steam is very important in the bread baking process.
You could also put a sheet pan on the bottom with some
water. Yeah, absolutely.
But the sheet pan also, it deteriorates the flow of the heat. Though.
Right.
So if you have the memory and you remember to come back in and spray it. Right. So I'm assuming he's going to come back and spray.
Right. So the steam is very important for the bread baking process, because if you put in the bread with intense dry heat, without steam, the outside is going to it's going to create a shell that it can't expand. Exactly. It's going to create a shell and it can't expand further. When there's moisture in the air in the oven, the dough can still expand and move around. So steam is very important. I don't know if this is true, if you can give me some insight, but the chef at the bread bakery I used to work at, I asked him, before steam injection ovens, which you just press a button and inject steams, what did they do? And he said, they would, he's an old Polish guy. He said they would take wet towels and just literally swing it around at the deck, and that's how you get the steam in there.
That's how old I am. I did the wet towel method. God damn it.
Time lapse.
It looks
sick.
Beautiful.
And after 30 minutes, I'll pull out the loaf, and yes, that looks great. Almost like a cartoon version of a loaf of bread, actually. This isn't the snagged loaf, by the way. I made 2 of these just in case I biffed one. Here's the snag doggy. Still looks good, but it's less tall. Now, I'm going to let this bread cool completely and make the secondary B of this PB&J. That's whipped salted butter. For that, into the bowl of my stand mixer,
why?
What's the why of this butter?
Butter and then a strong pinch of
you
salt.
added salt in there.
4 grams.
Okay.
The whisk attachment goes on, and I'll spin this on high speed for 3 to 4 minutes. I actually got the whole butter with peanut butter idea from my boy Ted Wilson at Union Loafers, and trust me when I say that you will never be able to make a PB&J without it again.
Why?
After 5 minutes on high speed, this butter is almost white and looks like cake frosting.
Well, that is a usable cake frosting.
Yeah, right there, straight up. Yeah,
whipped butter is.
Yeah, whipped butter with sugar. 100%.
Yeah, that's cake frosting.
Expensive, but good.
Butter frosting. Oof.
Make my frickin' grown-up peanut butter and jam sandwich. The first step towards that would be to slice up my potato bread.
Oh, he's calling it potato bread.
Cool completely because it's so soft that if you didn't, you would
perfection.
Starch,
Hell
basically.
to the
now, I'm
yeah.
gonna cut thick, chunky slices that are about 3/4 of an inch. That might seem overly thick, but remember
so
this bread is so
that's
white
in between a regular slice and a Texas toast.
Remember, we reacted to Gordon Ramsay's grilled cheese. Okay.
Here you go, baby.
This is fine for a peanut butter and jelly.
But that would kill.
Yes.
Kill in a grilled cheese.
That would kill with grilled cheese. This is the bread that Gordon was using was more country style. It's a lot more dense. The heat's not going to penetrate. If you use this for a grilled cheese, it would actually work because it's so light. The heat can actually go through.
And actually the moisture that's in that bread is going to steam that cheese melt. It's
Once I've got 2 thickens like this, it's time to assemble. First thing down is 2 large dollops of Spanish peanut butter.
Look at how
use the back of a spoon to spread that instead of a knife
as he's dropping the peanut butter on. Like, it's so delicate, the bread is moving with it.
Super sticky, and a knife tends to tear up the bread, whereas a spoon is just easier on the whole thing. Once that's evenly spread, I'll go to the second slice and drop a few teaspoons of the whipped butter. Spread that from edge to edge.
Oh,
there it is.
With a liberal dose of crunchy, flaky salt. If you remember, I didn't put any salt in the nut butter when I made it because chunky salt on top.
I will agree with him.
Yes, he is 1,000% correct.
Oh,
I like this guy. We're gonna react to more of this guy's stuff.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yes.
Holy yes.
Squeeze
he
some
put it in a
raspberry
bottle
jam on top of the salted nut butter. I
'Cause
put
he
this
doesn't want to
stuff in
spread
a
it.
used mayonnaise bottle so that I could drop it on top as opposed to spreading it with a spoon or a knife. This sandwich thrives on contrast, and keeping all the flavors and layers separate is crucial to its success. You really want all the mixing to happen
as it's
inside
swirling
of
in
your
your mouth,
It's like
everything's gonna happen.
Interesting.
Oh,
This
see
goes
the
on
butter,
in a
the
gentle
butter.
press to seal it all together. Wow,
Oh my God,
that
that's
is
so good.
pretty
Dude.
PB&J. Like I said, the name of the game here is contrast.
Yes.
All in one bite, you get to experience rich, roasty nut butter. And then some crunchy salt comes along and amplifies that.
Yeah.
Then some unctuous, creamy butter fat. Then cold, sweet, tart raspberries. And now your brain is melted. This is a powerful sandwich.
How much would you pay for that?
I mean, honestly,
all kidding aside, you go to here's our fancy peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right?
Yeah.
How much would you pay for that?
I'd pay up to $20 for that.
Dude,
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, I would without hesitation.
Meanwhile, I love a $1 peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but I would not be offended.
Yeah, same.
That
This is the prime example of from scratch cooking for something so simple, and it elevates it beyond anything you've had before.
He wins by the salt and that coat of butter.
His attention to detail from the beginning was spot on. This guy, whether he's worked in, I'm definitely going to assume he has some kind of professional training. This is a perfect example of elevating food.
I know you would want a glass of milk with this, but
Martini?
No.
White Russian?
But I would do a spiced milk with this.
No, just regular milk.
Regular
just
milk?
a cold glass of whole milk. Whole milk, cold, ice cold.
No.
Okay, hey, to
No.
each their own,
Wait.
to each their own.
It can't be flavored. You're right, because and it can't be chocolate milk, and it can't be. Oof.
This one is going to hit you.
Dude, the butter.
Deep. I hope you try it soon.
Yes.
Let's eat this thing.
Yes, yeah, I'd be dancing like that too. 100%.
That was awesome.
I have zero comments to add. He covered all the bases. Anything I
And more.
Yeah,
and more.
Yeah, I don't think we added much commentary to this.
My favorite videos, as boring as they might be to the viewers, are the ones where I have nothing to say and I get And I'm learning. And
the butter to the PB&J. You and I are doing that.
I'm doing that.
Yeah.
The butter.
Can we go to the supermarket now and just...
We should do this.
Let us do this. We're not hungry.
But I'm not making the bread, so we need to get like...
Is Amy's still open?
Oh.
Frenchy, guess what?
What?
New merch drop! Remember on the podcast, our first ever Feasty Boy segment, we went to a restaurant called Han Song Ting, and the entire time you thought I was calling you Handsome Thing.
Yes, I remember. We're wearing the t-shirts, aren't we?
Well, I had the design made, you loved it, and guess what? They have the B-roll. You don't have to shove it in their faces.
I was being practical.
And guess what, Frenchy? The Handsome Thing tees are now available for pre-order. Link in the description below. But why, Frenchy? What is the why? Should they be pre-ordering now? Because what happens if they don't pre-order?
Limited production, baby.
Yes, there you go. Once they are gone, they're
gone.
They're gone forever.
So can I put a special request into my 10%?
The 10% club.
Hop on it. Wait, that doesn't sound right. Or does it?
Visit the link in the description below and pre-order your Handsome Thing tee today.
Before we close out this episode, I do want to say thank you to all of my amazing patrons. Guys, thank you so much for your support. And remember, for the rest of you, by becoming a patron, you get to take advantage of some awesome perks like early access to new episodes, uncensored extended versions of certain episodes, and most importantly, patron exclusive content.
All right, let's go. Let's sign out of this and get ourselves some food. All right, hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as we did making. Remember, don't be afraid to fail because it can only make you stronger. And with that said, I'm Chef Brian Tsao, not your typical chef.
Frenchy.
And we'll see you really soon. Bye.